Hey everybody, it's Dan. It's Monday, July 7th, 2014. This is the jet lag edition of my first video blog. I'm sorry for the low tech. I've got my iPad hanging from a bookshelf. It's swinging slightly. Sorry about that. We arrived home from Russia 7 days ago. We've spent the last 3 years traveling about 750,000 miles. This has been one lifetime of experience. There's just really nothing that can compare to what we've experienced over the last 3 years living in Russia and Central Asia. Really the closest thing to it, aside from my family and my religious faith, is the experience I had for 10 years to be a trial judge here in Salt Lake City. We've spent the last 7 days kind of recovering, sleeping, recovering from our 30-hour journey. We've met a new son-in-law, we've met a new daughter-in-law, we've met 3 new grandchildren, greeted my 93-year-old parents, and now we're trying to face the future and figure out what we do from there. So I return home at age 56 and wonder, what in the world am I going to do with the rest of my life? And I hope there is a long rest of my life. I'd like to live to be 96, 97 years old, so I figure I have another 40 years to go. I've kept thinking the last few months about the movie It's a Wonderful Life, where Uncle Billy is worried that he's going to lose his job and the building alone is going to go under. And so, but he says to George Bailey, the lead, the Jimmy Stewart character, he says, "Don't worry about me. I can always get a new job. I'm only 55." So I'm sort of the Uncle Billy of the situation. And honestly, I returned to a lot of closed doors, but one really big open door. And the one doorway that's open for me, as I ponder what to do with the rest of my life, is the doorway opening on the life of a working writer. Even my closest family members, in fact, even my parents, aside from my wife, none of my family members know this, but I have been a secret novelist virtually my entire life. I started writing an historical adventure novel at the age of 14. The subject was the life of the last Anglo-Saxon king, Harold Godwinson, which is a kind of a weird, pretty heady subject for a 14-year-old boy. But yeah, I used to get up every morning, early, an extra hour, and I would lock my door, and I wrote my novel every morning before anyone was awake. And so I'm sure I was inspired really by the industry of my mom and my dad, both of whom were and are working writers. Between them, they have close to 30 books commercially published. And even at that age, they were very, very diligent writers. And so I observed them and watched them, and I decided I'm going to write a book myself. Although neither of them wrote novels, this was what I chose to do, is to write a novel. And so I've got in my basement here, in our home here in Holiday, Utah, I've got a really bad novel written in the handwriting of a 14-year-old boy sitting down in a drawer. And then over the subsequent years, subsequent 4 decades plus since then, I continued to write mostly novels, but also many short stories, also history, biography, and in fact, since returning from Russia, I've rummaged through my basement and I found all of the manuscripts, or most of the manuscripts that I've written over the years, and I've counted 17 different book projects that I have worked on over the years, some of them just beginnings, some of them first, second, third, or even up to 5th drafts of novels. And I have about 7 completed manuscripts that I've written. I've also kept a journal most of my life, probably 2 to 3 million words of daily journal writing. So I've had a significant amount of experience writing. I actually have these boxes that I found in my basement, and in them I have, for example, here is a finished manuscript, which is it's the 4th draft of a mystery novel that is dated 2005, so 9 years ago. So I have I have this and many other books that I've written. I've also decided that first of all, I'm going to go through the big door. All of the doors, it seems like, are closed in my life. The door to law practice, the door to a judgeship. But I'm going to go through the big door, the one open door, and that is to make my way as a writer. But really not so much as a writer, but as an entrepreneur, really a small business owner. I'm going to be a literary entrepreneur. I used to daydream as a boy, in fact, even as a grown man. Very often I used to daydream that I had a time capsule I could escape to, and time would be stopped in the ordinary world, but I could escape to this time capsule, and I could go anywhere in space and time that I wanted. In fact, I could observe historical events, or I could fly to the tops of high mountains, or I could fly in this time capsule. I could fly to my city, Salt Lake City, in 1700 or 1800 when there were no dwellings, or anywhere in the world, and then I could later return to ordinary time, but I would have time to regroup and to rest and to read and to study. And well, I've just realized that this room, this library here in our home, is my time capsule, and this is where I'm going to be doing my writing. And I feel very blessed that in this very, very short life is so short, that I now have the chance, here at age 56, I have the very narrowest window of opportunity to do what I really love to do. In fact, what I wanted to do my entire life, here in this room, surrounded by all the books that I've collected and gathered through a lifetime. From the time I have books in this room that I collected as a boy. I have many, many other books that I've collected in Europe, in Germany. In fact, I have about 500 books that are in a shipping container right now on their way from Russia. They will not fit in this room. I'm going to have two other rooms that will be sort of adjunct or auxiliary libraries. But here I have a desk. I have all of my resources, and surrounded by my books. This will be the place where I engage in one of the great joyous labors of my life. And so, having worked with traditional publishers for a long time, in fact, having been under contract with a traditional publisher for a manuscript that I wrote, having acted also as legal counsel when I practiced law, and then as a literary agent in negotiations with traditional publishers, and knowing somewhat about that world, and also having many writer friends, and having studied a lot and learned a lot, I have elected not to go that route, but to make my way from the very beginning as an independent, as an indie, not as a traditional writer seeking an agent and querying agents and trying to get a publisher, either a Big Five publisher or a regional publisher or a local publisher interested. I've decided that I'm going to be independent from day one and take control of my literary destiny. And I formed a little business entity under the laws of the state of Utah called 16 Stones Press. Maybe someday I'll talk to you about the personal significance of that, but it's called 16 Stones. I'll have a website. Right now I just have a Facebook page for the press, but that will be the platform for publishing all of the output from my hopefully fertile pen down the road, both electronic books as well as print versions. I'll have the print versions published by Lightning Source and Ingram's, and I'll use Kindle and most likely Kindle Direct Publishing for the ebook versions. I recognize that I'm not a Superman. I'm not an editor. I'm probably not even a very good writer. Probably within a mile of here, there might be 100 men or women who are far superior writers to me. What I can bring to this, though, is discipline. When I rally myself, I can be very, very focused and very disciplined. I'm not an editor. I'm not an artist. So I will I'll replicate through hiring editors and graphic designers to the highest possible extent the finished product of what the finest publishers would bring out. I also recognize that I only have a limited window of time. I don't have a year after I complete a manuscript to wait for a decision from a publisher, to sit on my hands, go from one foot to the other, and then another year after they've accepted it for publication to wait for the book to be published, and then wait another 6 to 12 months for the payment of first royalties. I just don't have that time. And so I begin, and you should look for a really prolific output from this 56-year-old former judge who's lived as an LDS mission president for the past 3 years in Russia and Central Asia. I've had a lifetime of writing practice, a lifetime of ideas, a lifetime of beginnings, and I've had a ringside seat on the cavalcade of humanity, which is paraded before me as a trial judge, as a mission president in Europe, in Asia, in America. I feel like Chaucer and his Canterbury Tales. I've seen it all, and I'm ready to write. And I promise to entertain, to surprise, to enlighten, to delight, and to astound you. And so I thank you for your support, and I hope you wish me well. And I promise that I'm going to be as diligent as I can be at this new endeavor. So thanks for listening.